Hey, everybody, welcome to Leadership Pathway. I'm the co founder, Dave Miller. I'm the lesser of the co founding team here at Leadership Pathway, where we're all about helping churches find and develop and support and sometimes even hang on to young leaders. And it's great to have you listening in. And it's really great to have Todd Rhodes of Chemistry Staffing with us. Todd, welcome.
Thank you. Very good to be here.
Todd has recently written a book called Something Alarm. Help me.
Silent alarm. Yeah.
Silent.
I have to,
Hold it
I have
up,
to look
Todd.
at it too. It's
No
brand new.
problem.
I don't
Silent
have the title
alarm.
memorized yet.
Silent
Yeah.
alarm. The
Yeah.
quiet
The
collapse
quiet
of.
collapse of the church staff pipeline and how to rebuild it before it's too late.
Thanks
That's a
for
lot of
that.
words.
And I devoured it last weekend on my Kindle. And we were just talking. I feel like when you meet somebody that's been working on they're in love with the same problem you're in love with, is what it is for the
Yeah.
last decade. It's just like, this is like has he been reading my mail or have I been reading his mail? But we're pulling on the same rope. And so I'm thrilled to have this conversation. Do you remember the last time I talked to you?
Yeah. It was a year and a half, 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a long time
Oh,
ago.
oh, you're thinking, yeah, even back before. Yeah.
Back in Omaha, back
Hmm.
before, and you maybe chemistry hadn't even started or was just starting, and you were an
That was
elder at
probably
your church.
pre-chemistry.
You
Yep.
were so encouraging to me.
Oh, good.
And at that time, we were all three or four of us here were at all embedded in a college together,
Yeah.
trying to work on this issue. And it was a great 4 year experiment that kind of incubated what became Leadership Pathway. But you've been at it for 9 years, you said, chemistry.
9 years. Yep.
You and
Going on
Matt.
9.
Give us the highlights of Todd Rhodes. What was before that? Just work backwards.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll do the really short version because it's not that interesting.
Yeah.
So I worked for a little over a decade at Leadership Network prior to
Okay.
chemistry staffing. So we worked a lot with mostly larger churches, mostly
Okay.
on innovative ministry practices, multi-site ministry,
Okay.
generosity, those kind of things. I was the director of digital initiatives there, so I got to do a lot of fun projects.
Okay.
Did a conference called the Nines. I don't know if you remember the
I
Nines or
remember that.
that was one of the first online conferences
I didn't know
because
that.
it was
You
back.
got 9 minutes, right? Was that the
You
deal?
had not it was oh 09, oh 09, oh 09, and we wanted to have 99 speakers with 9 minutes each. It was incredible. It
Yeah.
was a lot of fun. Uh, but did that for about 10 years. Before that, I was the
Wait, wait,
founder of
wait,
Church.
Todd. What year was that?
Oh boy, that would have been what, the Nines or just the whole Leadership
Yeah.
Network thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nines was September 9th, 2009.
Oh, it was '09.
Yep,
So
yep,
you were
yep.
early. People were like, this is crazy.
Oh,
Online? We're going to do
yeah,
this online?
the technology was barely there. We did it with duct tape and a webcam,
Yeah, right.
and pieced everything together, and it was nerve-wracking. And I think we had like 40,000 people show up to that first one, to the live thing, which we were just like blown away.
How about that?
It was incredible. But no,
I did
that
not
was a
know
lot of
that was
fun.
you. I had no idea.
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
friends that
So
spoke at it. Yeah. Okay. So, but what was before that?
before that, I founded churchstaffing.com.
Okay.
So back, and that was the end of 1999. So I'm getting old, brother.
You and me both.
That was back when Al Gore, right after Al Gore invented the interwebs.
Exactly.
Started churchstaffing.com, and again, it was back when the internet was just getting started.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a brand new way for churches to find staff,
Sure.
rather than going through their network or their denomination or hiring
Yeah.
locally. They could finally do a national search, which there were some good things in that and some
Of
bad
course.
things in that. And I'm
Oh
still
my
paying
gosh.
attention for some of it.
I mean, overwhelmingly good. It's still going.
Oh, oh yeah, no, yeah,
I
we
mean,
still partner with church staffing. They're great
okay.
folks over there, and they're still doing really good work.
Tell me or real quick, how did that start? I don't think I've ever heard the story. Was it like a whole lot of money and you had bougie offices, or were you down in the basement next to the washer and dryer typing on your keyboard, inventing this thing?
I always tell people I was in my basement sitting in my
Okay.
underwear,
Yeah,
but
right.
that's probably a little bit too much information. But No, I started, and you and I talked before you hit record. I started. I'm one of those old worship guys, right?
Right.
So I always loved Jesus. I loved
Yeah.
music, and I loved technology.
Right.
So I kind of melded those three together. I started my first website. You'll find this interesting, maybe, was a website called ministerofmusic.com,
About that.
which I mean, that's what they called us back then.
Yeah.
They didn't call
Yeah.
us worship pastors or worship leaders. We were ministers of music. So I started a website called ministerofmusic.com, and it had, and again, it was like, that would have been like 1997, 98.
Dude.
So, people didn't even know really what web
Mm-mm.
pages were back then.
I was
So
on
in
AOL, weren't we? Were we on
yeah,
AOL?
yeah, I remember
Dial
the
up?
old AOL and the CompuServe and
Yeah.
Prodigy days.
Yeah.
But I started a web page when most people didn't know what a web page was,
Right.
only because I couldn't find another worship, any kind of
Isn't that
minister of
amazing?
music resources out there. It was crazy. So I had, I would compile, hey, these are different worship sets that we did, and one of the pages I had on there was churches looking for a worship pastor.
How about that?
And after about a month, I discovered, remember those little tickers you used to have
Yeah.
down at the bottom that
Yeah.
would say how many people you
Yeah.
visited the page? It was the most popular page. So I thought, hey, and it was all hand coded. It was all
Yeah.
free at that point.
Yeah.
And I decided, hey, if this works for worship pastors, maybe there are churches that
Right.
need senior pastors or
Right.
whatever. So that's how church staffing was built, and I built that started it and built it for about 5 years before I sold it. But it was just a kind of a one-man shop, so no
5 years.
bougie offices here.
Okay.
That would have
Do you
been
think the
nice, but no.
secret, if you had to give the talk Thursday to the luncheon, you built something that has lived on, which is unusual and especially in the church kind of space, I think.
What
Like it's one
it's
thing
a
to have a high octane, well-funded startup that someone starts and you hear the stories and most of them blow up and die, but the ones that live on, then they hire someone to run it and it's a success story. This thing is a success story without the high startup. I'm glad I actually love the story of sitting in the basement and it's
yeah.
you and
Yep.
you were scratching an itch that you had.
I'm
I
s-
love
I'm s-
that.
I'm still in the same room in my basement.
That's hilarious. It's the
I don't
same.
know if that's good or bad
So
25 years later,
funny.
but here I am.
So what's
So
the
no, it's
secret?
it's crazy. It was right after I sold the website to a big Christian company, and they were
Okay.
buying different websites at the time.
Okay.
But it was right after the dot-com boom,
Okay.
or, the fall off, and they told me another site this was back in 1999. They told me another site. I won't mention what site it was. Another Christian website
Yeah.
that was churning $1 million a month.
Wow.
They were losing $1 million a month,
Wow.
and they bought it. And I'm just like, here I am sitting in my basement. I have no concept for what
Yeah.
that even is. It was interesting.
Well, Todd, give him my contact information. That would be
Yes,
great.
exactly. Right?
Okay, so how many some of this overlapped your ministry experience, I'm assuming. You're still a worship pastor and you're starting chemistry staffing. I had no
Yeah,
idea. I didn't know you were
yeah,
a worship guy.
yeah. I was a worship guy for about a dozen, between 12 and 15 years, I forget,
Okay.
at
Were
three
you
different
a
churches.
keyboard player, a guitar
I,
player?
I was a keyboard player
Yeah, you and
back
me
back when
both.
I did this. We're talking. I mean, that's been the worship wars were like
Yeah.
we got the guns and the knives out when we
Yeah.
did worship wars with bringing drums in and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was a worship pastor, and kind of dabbled in putting this internet site together kind of in my off hours. So
How
it's
about
just kind of
that?
a kind of a hobby.
As a keyboard player, it was cool to stand up for a while and be a keyboard
Mhm.
player. And then Coldplay came along and then it was cool to sit back down again. And then it was cool as we kept reinventing. The smart ones played guitar, but anyway.
Yeah.
Um, would you say, man, who were you in high school? I'm always interested in the origin story of people. Were you an athlete? Were you a techie guy back then trying to build computers and figuring out, or who
You
were you?
know,
Who was Todd?
I don't know. I wasn't the tech guy because we didn't have tech back then.
We had some
Oh,
sort of tech. Were you reinventing how
not
overheads
much.
were
You
laid up
know,
there for the
well,
courses?
I started with the overhead.
I did
Well, we
too.
started with the song sheet in the back of the hymnal, right? And then we went to
Okay.
overhead, and then we went to slides, and then we went
Yeah.
to a video projector that was so dim that nobody could see it unless you turned out every
That's
light in
right.
the, building.
So expensive.
Oh yeah. But no, I remember. So I graduated from college in 1986.
Okay.
My first job was I sold commercials at a radio station.
That's awesome.
And so this will tell you how old I am. I went into it was probably late 1986. I went into an office supply store to sell them commercials, and they had a fax machine in there, and
Yeah.
started going off, and I just couldn't believe it. It's like,
How
what
about
in the
that?
world is
Okay.
this?
Yeah.
And probably it was probably another year or two before I bought my first computer.
Okay.
Had a most expensive computer I ever bought, had a 20 megabyte hard drive.
Yeah. That's right.
And he told me, he said, you'll never use all of it. And I never did. So I don't know that I was the tech guy in
Yeah.
high
Okay.
school. I wasn't the athlete either. I was just, I don't know.
Were you a researcher? Were you a good student?
I was a good student. I never applied myself, but I was a
Right.
good student.
This
Um,
idea of innovation, you're early on the scene, it sounds like to me.
yeah, and I'm not quite sure where that, I don't know that I saw that in myself in high school. Um, Probably a little bit in college. My first business venture was I had a pop shop in my dorm because I went to Cedarville. So you
Yeah,
had
yeah.
like one pop machine for
Yeah,
like
that's right.
2,000 students. It wasn't
Yep.
that big then, but
Yep.
so yeah, I sold pop out of my dorm and Little Debbie's treats.
How about that?
And me and my roommate made a lot pretty good money,
Pretty good margin on that stuff back
pretty
then?
good margin on this stuff
Did
back
you
then.
file
So
with the state though? I mean, were you paying your taxes on
is
those
this
little
being
Debbie?
recorded?
Yeah. So
Yes, I
we'll edit
absolutely
that out.
did.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
So early on the scene, innovation, inventor, maybe. Ideas though, for sure.
Maybe. So I do feel like I've always got more ideas than what I can implement.
Right.
Most of them aren't really
Yeah.
great ideas,
Yeah.
but a lot of I don't know that I'm that much ahead of the curve. God kind of put me in the right place at the right time, which is
For sure.
very cool.
Chemistry staffing was definitely, I mean, that has served the influence of that. I mean, millions of jobs. How many jobs have they posted? Do they even know?
Oh,
It's
I
unbelievable.
I have no idea, but I still get emails from people that said, "Hey, and we hired a lot of people at my
Yeah.
church,
Yeah.
throughout the years.
Right.
That was kind of the go-to place." So, and just I mean, take it out of the church world. I mean, what other internet websites have lasted that long? I mean, it's
Right.
not anything to do
Right.
with me at all,
Right.
but it's like there's hardly 25 years in internet years is a long time. So
Forever.
it's been so cool. I always thank God that He allowed me just a very small part in getting people in the right seat of the bus, at churches all over the country. That's
Yeah.
that's cool.
That's great. Okay, let's get to the book. Let's get to the book. Tell me about, I'm assuming there was a moment for you when the alarm first went off. Like, why didn't they get resumes? What is going on? Do you remember when was that?
Well, I think for for us and our work at chemistry, I think we really especially started noticing it after COVID.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
as I look back at the last 5 years, I think this has been something that's been going on for the last generation, two generation, last 25, 30 years probably.
Okay.
It's
Right.
been a really slow burn. Uh, what COVID did, just like it's done with so many other things in our culture, has just kind of exposed the cracks
Right.
and sped things up.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of the things. So really, really, the Silent Alarm book was a way for me kind of to get some of the stuff out of my head
For sure.
that we've kind of learned in the last 5 years because I think it's a big deal for churches,
Yeah.
and you and I both get to work with a lot of different churches. You in residencies, me in staffing, but we get kind of a vantage point that most church leaders don't get because they're in a local church.
Right.
They see what's happening at their local church. They
Yeah.
don't see what's happening across, hundreds of churches. So you and I kind of get to see maybe some of those trends happening before others do. So that's what this book is trying to explain and communicate some of the things that we've seen happening, some of the trends we've seen happening, and kind of wave a flag here and say,
Yeah.
we got to change some things, or
Right.
else this is just not going to be sustainable.
Um, let's act. I'm from Kentucky, so I'm allowed to say this. Let's act like we're sitting on the front porch in Kentucky with a Mountain Dew.
Okay.
And I lean back in my chair and I'm like, why is it like this? It's sort of like my cousins and I, we can fix healthcare and Kentucky basketball in one conversation. It's
In
very
one,
complex. It's very
Mhm.
complex. People ask me like, why is it like this? I'm like, well, there's 140 reasons.
Yeah.
When you get asked that and you've got about 30 seconds to give an answer. Why are we here?
Yeah. I think um, going back, it's been a last 5 year issue, but it's been a 25 or 30 year
Right?
issue. So a lot of things have been happening, and just the premises, and this is what people are starting. This is kind of the first part of the silent alarm is churches when they go to hire new staff. All of a sudden it's not like it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like where are all the candidates? Where are
Okay.
their resumes? And in the book, I kind of identify three of those things that have been happening over the last generation. The first is just the change in higher education
Okay.
in Christian areas, seminaries. Many seminaries have there's been a good number that have closed down. Christian
Yep.
college enrollment is down.
Yeah.
They're just not gaining nearly as many
Yep.
students as they used to have. It used to be you'd go to Christian college and then you'd go to seminary. You would
Right.
physically go to seminary,
Right.
and people aren't physically going to seminary. Online stuff has kind of taken some of that away, so they'll work
Yep.
at a church and do the online thing. And they don't want to go into, 50, 75, $100,000 in debt.
Yeah.
We talk with a lot of candidates that are just, they're swarming in student debt.
Yeah.
So all of that means that at one level, the number of viable candidates graduating from seminaries,
Yep.
and everybody wants somebody that's got a D-man, right?
Right. Right.
They're not as many there now. So
Right.
that's the first thing. Second thing is over the past 25, 30 years, all the denominations, not all, but a lot of the denominations and networks have also taken a hit. They
Yeah.
just, it used to be if you needed a new pastor, you'd call
Sure.
your denominational rep and you'd say,
Sure.
"Hey, who you got for me?" And they'd have a list of six or eight
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
They don't have that list anymore.
Even the non-denominational people have a club of some
Yeah,
sort that they used to
yeah,
go to,
yeah.
and now
And
not
and
so much.
and even if the club still exists, the
Yeah.
list doesn't.
Uh-uh.
That is kind of another layer. And then the third layer that I really kind of concentrate on in the book, and I know you do in yours as well, is uh, I think generationally things have changed from I just turned 61 from when I was growing up
Yep.
in high school and college. Because I think back then it was just kind of in a lot of churches' DNA to, Dave Ferguson calls it the ICNU
Yeah.
conversations,
Yeah.
where you look for the young kid that's got some promise and you
That's
sit
right.
them down over coffee and you say, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing
Right.
this?"
Who was that for you, Todd, back in the day? Who did that?
Um, I had a couple funny story. I have of a couple guys that did that. The most positive one was I was a part-time worship pastor right out of college at a small church and a small denomination, and our bishop came. And I think I mentioned this in the book. Our bishop came and spoke on Sunday and then took us out for lunch afterwards, a small group of us. And he looked at me during lunch just out of the blue and said, "Todd," he said, you're doing some really cool things. But God just is somehow telling me that this is just kind of the start for you, and
About that?
you're gonna go on, and He's gonna use you in some really great ways. And I was probably 28,
Yeah.
and I didn't think anything of it. I really
Yeah.
didn't,
Yeah.
but that stuck with me.
Mm.
And it was just kind of that encouragement that I needed. I had
Mm.
another pastor when I was in high school. I decided I was going to go to Cedarville,
Yeah.
which was a Baptist school, and
Yep.
my pastor was more of a he was more of a Hiles Anderson guy, if that tells you how I grew up. So he was not at all happy that I was going to Cedarville because he thought I should go, go be a preacher, you know. He thought I was wasting my time at Cedarville. But I tell you what, it was his concern for me
Yeah.
that he sat down and had a conversation with me.
Yeah.
And so those were two like really
Mm,
pivotal conversations that I still remember today.
sure.
And Matt, my co-founder, was in a room with pastors, group of pastors, probably about 6 months ago, and he was kind of telling his story.
Hmm.
And one guy kind of raised his hand and said, I don't remember the last time I've had that conversation.
Yeah,
I'm being totally honest
for
here. And
sure.
Matt said, well, why?
For sure.
He's like, I don't know. So I don't think at the church level that we don't care.
Right.
It's just that we don't think of it. We have in the past, and maybe this is where church staffing was not a good thing, churchstaffing.com for some. We've outsourced our leadership development. We've outsourced our staff.
Yeah.
So if we need a youth pastor, we'll just post it and we'll find
Right.
one. And they'll
Right.
come and they'll move to our town. They'll be our youth pastor.
Right.
We've kind of gotten away from identifying local leadership, which I know you're really passionate about, identifying local leadership in our church, building into them, discipling them, and giving them a shot at ministry, or at least encouraging them to go on to get some training and to be full time.
Well, I love the book because it had a high level, you kind of do a great job explaining on that front half of the book. Like, here's what's actually going on. Here's how we got here. You're
Yep,
not alone. You're in a big club. If you
yep,
posted your job somewhere and you think something's wrong, and I know you do this, you and your team get this all the time. No matter where I am in the country, people say to me, it's really hard to get people to move here to do
yep,
ministry. And I'm
yep.
like, yeah, we used to think Austin, Texas or Portland. So there were a few key areas that people wanted to move to and do ministry. I think even
Mhm.
that has changed significantly in these last 5 years that you're talking about.
Well,
Geography is everything.
let me tell you what, and I'm overemphasizing here. So this might
Yeah.
be a little bit of a tall tale, but not much.
Uh-huh.
Pre-COVID, we'd ask people, where do you want to be geographically?
Right.
And 8 out of 10 people, I'm pulling the number out
Yeah,
of
yeah,
out
yeah.
of the
Right.
air. 8 out of 10 people said, I'd like to be in this area, but
Right.
wherever God calls me,
Right.
I want to be open to.
That's right.
And now a lot of times we'll ask somebody, where do you want to be geographically? I had one guy literally tell me, I just want to be within an hour of Orlando.
No, that's right.
And it's like, people are like, I've got a mortgage on my home. I love my home.
Right. Right.
I love my kids love their
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
My wife has a good social. I don't want to move.
Yeah.
And that's new for churches when
It's
they're
new.
hiring somebody new.
It's new, but it feels to me like of all the ways God uses, of all the things God uses to get people,
Hmm.
geography has always been one. But
Yep.
it feels like it's almost at the top of the list now.
It is my theory on that, Dave, and I could be totally wrong, is I think that is one of the long tails out of COVID as well,
Yeah, I agree.
particularly with younger
I
candidates,
agree.
because
Yes.
you think about it, a lot of people were serving, 1,000 miles away from their
Yeah,
home.
that's right.
COVID hit and
Yeah,
they couldn't move.
that's right.
They were stuck.
Yeah.
And it took them a while. A lot of them got out of
Yeah.
ministry altogether,
Yeah.
but when they did make a move, it almost always back closer to family, back
Right.
closer to parents, back closer to grandparents. And I think it was a kind of a way to say, I don't want to get stuck
Yeah.
away and alone
Yeah.
again. And I
Yeah.
I I get that, but I wonder if that's not part of it.
No, I think it is. I think it totally is. I think trying to get people to just and we're normally dealing, 20 to 25 year olds.
Yeah.
Just get them to admit, yeah, I need to be within a 2 hour drive of
Yep.
this location. Is makes it so much a more truthful and honest conversation. I don't.
Hmm.
I said, well, God knows your address.
Hmm.
I'm sure if God wrote it on the wall that I was supposed, my example is if God wrote on the wall, I need to move my wife to some place without Trader Joe's and without these other things that we think are so important, right? I'm sure I would do it because I've read the Bible. I know what happens when you don't do. But he would
Exactly.
have to write it on the wall, Todd. It would have to be
Yep.
unlike anything I've experienced, and we've moved around a lot, but it would have to be like a calling,
Hmm.
obvious, sinful Dave to not act upon that. And
Yeah.
and so I would even say for us, geography, we move now close to be the grandkids. And
Hmm.
we've moved twice now to be because they moved the first time.
Oh no.
So I can't look at the 20-year-old and say, well, that's weak that you
Yep.
want to be in a certain place. It's just
Yeah.
how do we find the people in the places?
It's
And
not
that's
wrong. It's
yeah,
different. Yeah.
yeah.
We
It
tell
is
churches
different.
all the time, what use, and again, most churches don't see this because either, a lot of the churches we're working with are small to medium-sized churches,
Right.
so they don't do tons, they're not hiring everybody
Yeah.
every other month.
Right.
But part of it is just what used to be a national search, we tell people is now probably going to be more of a regional or a
That's
local
right.
search.
Yeah. The national search, they're just going to move back 3 years later. So
Yeah.
we need somebody that knows the area, has a reason to stay
Yep.
on a rough Monday, right? I don't
Yep.
know. I don't think that's all bad. I just think we have to admit it and then align strategies accordingly, which is what you're talking about in your book. That's what you're saying.
I,
Let's
I,
just admit
I
it.
I think so. And I think one of the other issues, and maybe this is where you were headed, maybe it isn't, but I think a lot of people my age that are doing a lot of the hiring are looking to hire people like what they did 10 or 20
Sure.
years ago.
Sure.
And they look at that the current, the young people that you're working with, and they're
Yeah.
just like, well, they don't have a firm sense of calling. They absolutely have a firm sense
Right.
of calling, but they don't use the same language
They
that you
don't.
used
They
25 or
don't.
30 years ago. They're lazy. They don't want to move. They
Yeah.
don't want to do this. It's like,
Yeah.
no, they really do. They want to make a difference, but they're looking at it through a different lens. You have to start speaking their language. You're looking for candidates that just aren't they're just not there. They're different than what it used to be. You
Yeah. I
have to
mean,
look
I've
at it through a
changed,
different
Todd.
lens.
I mean, I've changed jobs 8 or 9. Let me think. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, 7 or 8 times. And I've changed careers 3 times. The
Hmm.
vocation, I would say the calling found me in my 40s.
Hmm.
But I struggle to use the word calling anymore. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to rob that from a 22-year-old. If they had the
Hmm.
bright light and came
Hmm.
forward and got the touch and I would say when times are tough, those people I don't have statistical evidence, but anecdotally, I'm like, why are you still working here? I'm
Hmm.
called to be here.
Hmm.
I think there is something to that, but I struggle to put that on. I'm more in the camp, and maybe this is bad. I mean, this is wrong even, but I'm like, I bet you could do this for a decade. And if
Hmm.
you do it for a decade, you'll have options because every church leader I've ever talked to has said they're looking for a 30-year-old with 7 years of experience. So if you get to that point, you can
Uh-huh.
probably do whatever you want. But um, I feel like we're in the business of just like you should step into this.
Yeah.
You went to school, you did the gap year. Grandma told you when you were 9 you were going to be a preacher. You can't get away from this nagging thing. I
Hmm.
bet if you went someplace that's wants more for you than from you. I bet if you went someplace with a kind boss who coached you through the first couple of years, I bet you could do this a decade. That's how
Hmm.
I describe it. If you're looking for burning bushes and road to Damascus, I don't know, man. One out of
Yeah.
100. I just don't. I just don't
Well,
see that.
see,
In
that's the difference because when my calling was, and I think a lot of people in my generation, the calling was you were called to be, I was called to be a worship pastor or a
okay,
minister of music, right? So for me, in my youngness and just the
right,
culture,
right,
and the description of calling is that I was going to be a worship pastor in a church. If God called me somewhere else, guess what? I would be a worship pastor
right,
at another church.
right.
That's not how that's not how people are processing it now. They're like, I love Jesus. I want to make a
Want to
difference.
make a difference.
I could do it in the church. I could do it in a local nonprofit.
Sure.
I could do it working at the
Work-
Amazon warehouse and
That's right.
witnessing to my
That's right.
coworkers. And I think all of those are legit,
It is legit.
right? But if I'm sitting looking at it from a 1986 perspective and putting that on a young person, I'm like,
Sure.
well, they're not called.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to put them, and you know what? And this is the bad thing of the way that I kind of grew up, is that we weren't allowed kind of the 10-year out.
Right.
If things got tough,
Right.
we just dug deeper because
Right.
dang
Yeah.
it, God called us to do this.
Right.
Um,
And our dads all worked, moms all worked for 30 years for one employer. So it was just
oh
almost
yeah,
like even in the 90s, it was just this expected
yep,
kind of thing. You went to school, you got the job, and you stayed in the job.
you did. My dad worked 45 years at a
Right.
factory, right?
Right.
Yeah,
How about that?
who does that?
Now, well, definitely not Gen Z. I
No,
mean,
no.
if they sniff, it's a bad situation. It's unhealthy. If they sniff inauthenticity in their manager boss, if the boss manager doesn't know how to mentor and coach and
Hmm.
develop, they're not going to stay
Yeah,
very long at all.
yep, yep, yep. No.
What's the average stay in ministry, Todd?
It varies and according to, the common youth pastor was what, a year and a half to 2 years.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it's when you get to different levels, it goes up a little higher with senior pastors. I
Yeah,
mean, you can stay at a church for
sure.
30 years, but those are still the outliers. There are still a lot of people that are
Yeah,
moving after 2 years, 3 years because they
right,
can never find that good fit.
right.
So yeah, it's all over the place.
Not long enough though.
Not long enough. That's
Uh,
that's why we started chemistry, is we thought,
sure,
hey, if we could,
sure.
back when we started, we said, the average is about 3 years across.
Yep,
You take everything and lump
yep.
it in. If we could move it from 3 years to 5 years,
Be a
that's a
game changer.
win.
It's a
That's a
win.
win. Because 5 years is when you've gone through the honeymoon period.
That's right.
You've
Seasoned.
paid your dues. You've got
Yeah,
some change in your pocket that you
right,
can institute some change. That's when
right.
between years 4 and 5, a lot of times is where the fruitful ministry can really
Yep,
start.
yep,
And so many people just never quite get to the point where they can have that fruitful ministry
yeah.
because they have to go someplace else and start over.
Okay, Todd. So we've described we're deep in the woods, or as my friend would say, we're up Willow Creek without a Hybels. Okay, so give us some hope. Give us some hope. Give us some hope. I'm a pastor at a church. I'm an elder. I'm a staff leader. We've had jobs on our websites. We've done all the things that we've done. We've fallen in love. That person didn't want the job after weeks and months of talking.
Hmm.
Here it is, September. What can we do?
Well, you want the short-term answer, or the long-term answer?
No, well, do you have a good answer for both?
Well, I
Okay.
don't know if
Yeah, give us
I've
both.
got an answer.
Yeah, give us both.
Short term is you have to, and I would encourage you, and I'd love to talk with anybody that's kind of going through this and kind of asking, because I think I mentioned to you, just about every consult call that we do at chemistry,
Yeah,
on the other end of the Zoom call is somebody saying, why, we tried this.
yeah,
What's going on?
yeah.
Is it me? Is it
Right,
this shouldn't be this hard. It didn't used to be
right.
this hard. Short term, I think you just have to, some of the things that we've talked about just the changes. If you're trying to hire like you did 5, 6, 7 years ago,
Right.
you just need to change expectations. So we work with a lot of churches, that are still looking, hey, we want a pastor that's between 38 and 42 with a
Yeah.
D-min and
Yeah.
12 years of experience. And we just have to say, 8 years ago, we would say, okay, well, we'll do our best
We'll
to
find
find
that
that.
person.
Today, it's like, okay, let's dig in and talk about that, what you want, what you really need.
Right.
So I think there needs to be short term for churches that are looking. You don't want to drop everything that you're looking for, but you need to look for some different things and be a little bit more open on your filters,
Okay.
because God can. Not everybody has to be plug and play.
That's right.
Uh, you can hire for potential, and a lot of times, honestly, you can get potential a little bit cheaper. Everybody's
Yeah.
looking at budgets. but potential, if you've got the right team behind you to do the mentoring and coaching, can just be
Right.
outstanding hires.
Yep. Yep.
So that would be the short term, is maybe kind of look at what you're actually trying to hire.
Yep.
If you pulled a job description from 2006,
Right.
that's a big part of your
God, these
problem.
job descriptions are pages long. I'm like, Jesus could not do what you're asking this
Hmm.
fictional person to do, but we still do it.
We still do it, and we still have, pastor gets a knock on his door at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the youth pastor's leaving, and he calls us that afternoon with a 2006 job description.
I'm like,
Uh,
who could do it and who would want to do it if they could? I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yep.
Okay. So,
That's short term.
so adjust,
Adjust. You have to
adjust
adjust
what
your
you're looking for.
expectations.
Yes.
Yep.
Adjust. Okay. That's number one.
Yeah. And
Number
that
two.
doesn't mean you're going to find a crappy candidate. It just means the candidate that you might work. And we tell churches this all the time. We're surprised at what we find.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, we're
Right.
pleasantly surprised at what we find. And sometimes we find people, and churches will hire the people we send them that maybe didn't fit exactly the mold that they thought they were looking for, but they fall in love.
I know you've been in front of a board or a group of people, and someone who's been quiet for 40 minutes raises their hand in the back row and they say, I'll tell you how we're going to find this candidate. God's going to find this candidate. We're going to pray him in here, Todd. What do you say to that person?
Absolutely, prayer is a part of it, but it also takes a little bit of action on your part. So you have to, you know,
I love that.
yeah.
I
Uh,
love that.
Long term, I'm very idealistic. I think they should get a copy of your book right here. I think
What do I
you
owe you
have
for that? Oh my goodness.
uh, long term, I think the key is, and like I said, I'm really idealistic here. If we could get back to having more of those ICNU
Yeah.
conversations,
Yeah.
if we could, and that doesn't, you don't have to be a senior pastor to do that.
You
If
do
you're
not.
a worship guy or a worship gal who's killing it on your team, have
Hey,
that conversation.
Todd, you grew up in the church? Did you grow up in a religious, Christ-centered
Mhm.
sort of house?
Yep,
Do you remember your Sunday school teachers? That's what we used to
absolutely.
call it, Sunday
Hmm.
school. I was on
Yep.
my bike ride yesterday, rode by an Adventist church. It said Saturday school. I didn't know that was a thing. I'm like, wow, that's a hard ask for a little kid to go to Saturday school. Anyway, I remember my Sunday school teachers. I remember my
Hmm.
youth group
Yep.
leaders.
Oh, I do too.
Every one of them have a role here.
Hmm.
Every
Yeah,
one of them.
and so lean into the people that God has already brought you. Those volunteers, like I said, you can do that at every level, whatever
That's
your
right.
staff level is. And
That's right.
I think there is a role at the senior leadership team or the senior
Yep.
pastor, lead pastor level to make that a part. First of all, you have to do that. But second of all, you've got to kind of distill that DNA to your
Yeah.
team so that they're constantly looking. And so that it's going to be a long-term, this isn't going to, you're not going to hire a youth pastor next week when you start this today.
Right.
But 2 or 3 years from now,
Yeah.
uh, quite possibly. My,
Yeah.
my dream, and this sounds weird from somebody that owns a staffing company, but my dream would be that churches would really get the fire for how to do the leadership development, call people into ministry, send people out like they used
Right.
to. And guess what?
Yeah.
I could retire because you wouldn't need a chemistry staffing or a leadership
It would
pathway.
be nice.
You know what I mean?
That would be great.
Because churches would be actually doing the work of the ministry. And again, it's not because they've bad, or I think
That's
we've
right.
just drifted and
That's
it's
right.
not been a part of our church culture for the last 20-25 years.
I asked a preacher, a senior pastor. It was either last week or a year ago. I can't remember. I said we were talking about this topic and what he's asking me, what can I do? I'm so, I'm like, man, when was the last time you did at the end of the message, you did hey, normally we do some sort of call here, whether it's come to the front and get whacked or it's go to the decision room. I don't care. But
Hmm.
you're like, well, have you ever done a vocational sort of thing like that? And it was like a new idea to him. And I
Hmm.
was surprised at that, Todd,
Yeah.
because that is,
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a place and I've just been so close and around it. I just assume everyone's doing this. They're not doing it. And so I am with you on that from the pulpit occasionally, a couple
Hmm.
times a year, but
Yep.
down in the staff and even in the volunteer, the people who have immense influence,
Hmm.
over middle school and high school kids. Their parents are telling them over and over something, but that coach, that youth
Hmm.
group leader, that
Totally different.
can say it one time and they're like, that's it. That's what I'm going to
But
do.
so when I was in youth group, we did Word of Life. I don't know if you're familiar with Word of
Uh-uh.
Life, but it was a big I grew up pretty harsh Baptisty. Okay,
Harsh,
let's say that.
harsh. Is
Harsh
that a
Baptist.
synonym for fundamental?
Yes, I didn't want to use the F word on your podcast. But I remember we used to go to, these weekends where they would do, it was either a sporting thing or a talent thing
Yep.
or something.
Yep.
But we would sit on this big gym floor
Yep.
and we'd have the speaker. And this wasn't manipulative.
Right.
Absolutely, sometimes
Of
it was.
course.
It was
Right.
over the top. But I remember sitting, the message would be 20 minutes, and then the invitational part would be 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't just be for salvation. I mean,
Right.
they did salvation too, and you gotta accept
Yep.
Jesus.
Yep.
But right after they hit you with a salvation, it's like, what's God calling you to do?
Yeah.
And it was, I remember in college, we
Yeah.
we did every did we
Totally.
did a missions conference. I mean, you
Totally.
felt horribly guilty if you didn't
Right.
sign up and
That's right.
go to Indonesia or something.
Right.
But it was a part of the culture that we just, at least we were making the ask.
That's
Sometimes
right.
it would be over the top, but
I
we just
agree.
make the ask.
I think our maybe the last 20-year reaction to those things has been we focused on what was wrong about it, which
It's a
was is
pendulum,
like when it
right?
got abusive, when
Yeah.
it got weird, when it
Yep.
emotional decisions that kids make at camp and I'm with you.
Yep.
That's the shadow side of that. Around the edges of that is shadow, but there's some stuff going on there
Yeah,
that
but
to
it
pay
doesn't have
attention
to
to.
be weird,
It
and
doesn't.
it doesn't have to be over the top. It has to be
Doesn't.
a conversation, and preferably not in a huge
Yeah.
group like that, but a
Right.
one-on-one conversation where you're really trying to build into somebody.
Listen, you got the idea guy. You're the early idea guy, right?
Hmm.
So I'm looking at some people call it a revival or a spiritual awakening. It's going on in Gen Z. It's interesting the positive articles all of a sudden about Gen
Hmm.
Z Christians
Hmm.
and leading church attendance. And so if we have this swell of Christians, I don't know how else to say it. If we have this
Yeah.
swell of people coming through, what do you see happening with where they? We need to obviously be planting churches. People are doing that.
Hmm.
Young leaders planting churches.
Hmm.
But where are they going to go? What are they going to do? Who's going to lead? Do you have thought like we haven't had this problem since
No,
maybe the
well,
hippies, right? The 70s. This is
so it seems like a paradox because I feel like I'm on both sides because I
yeah,
don't have the clear picture yet. On the one side of it, and that's why I wrote the Silent Alarm book, is
yeah,
that if we continue down the course that we have for the last 25 years, and the other part of that we didn't talk about is just the onslaught of successions and
yeah,
retirements that are going to
yeah.
happen in the next 5 to 10 years. That's
That's right.
just going to, if
Right.
you think it's hard now,
Yeah,
wait 5 or 10 years
dude.
down the road if we don't start
That's right.
implementing something, and we got to start today to do that. So on the one hand, I'm like, man, we really got to get our act together,
Hmm.
or else, you know,
Yeah,
we're screwed here.
yeah,
On the other hand, church is going to be fine.
right.
Christ is always, this is a hiccup, right?
Exactly.
But so that's kind of the negative, but I'm very bullish on the church. But on the
Right.
other side, you talk about the young people, man, we see uh there are some sharp, and I think there's
Yeah,
something there to the revival
yeah,
and
yeah,
you know there's something happening and it's
yep,
really exciting. Now, what I'm not sure about is where those people land.
yeah.
Because I'm not sure they land in the traditional church and the traditional staff
Right,
settings that we're used to.
right.
And I almost feel like if we try to push them in that mold,
Right.
then it's just not going to work.
I agree.
Where they end up going, I don't know
Right.
exactly yet, but I'm pretty excited about it. Um, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't have a clear picture as to what that looks like. But I know there's a lot of
Well,
sharp people that God's calling up to do
right.
something really cool.
It makes sense, doesn't it, that if the Jesus people of the early 70s, that spawned what? Rick Warren, Chuck
Hmm.
Smith, the Willow Creek, these
Greg Laurie,
massive
yeah,
sort of movement,
yeah. Hmm.
sort of like that era, the Fortune 500 massive companies that will be here
Hmm.
forever. What
Hmm.
is this gonna spawn is probably gonna feel more like an app on your phone that comes
Yeah.
and goes. These
Yep.
spiritual expressions of people getting together. There's a great one built around running that a friend
Hmm.
entered. It's sweeping the country. Run
Hmm.
with Christ or Run Jesus Run Club or something like. And it's
Hmm.
thousands of kids show up
Hmm.
and they're running, and then they're baptizing them and having prayer services. And I'm just like, I don't have a file for this. A
And
guy
we
on our
can't be
board started this thing called Camp Love, and it is going. It's in fact, there's a chapter at Cedarville at your alma mater. There's a chapter of this thing, and it is built around a fall and a spring camping thing. I've seen it up close. 100 leaders, 700 campers were there. It was unlike anything I had personally.
and we can't sit back and be ticked at that,
Oh heck
right?
no, I donate to it is what I do, man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
But
exactly what I
we
do.
can't be upset that it doesn't fit our
Nope. Listen, there's going to be some heretics, right? The good news, there's always been heretics.
always.
There's
Yep.
always been
Yep.
things off the rails. That's okay. That's
Hmm.
okay. We got to throw fuel on this stuff for this
Yep.
generation and let them figure it out the way they're going to figure it out. And it's good to remember that the Jesus people became the boomers, by the way.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
anyway. Okay. Anything else? We have to adjust what we're looking for. We got to change strategies. What's it? What?
Yeah.
Anything else you would give hope to these people? What can they do next week?
So uh, um if you're looking right now, what I would say is adjust your filters. Make sure, and I'm not asking you to water it down, just
Yeah.
saying to adjust and open your eyes to maybe some different possibilities. The other thing I would just say is that, a lot of the churches that come to us are going, when it comes to timeline, they're thinking, all right, 3 months, I should have this wrapped up.
Right. Right.
We're telling churches 6 months minimum,
Yeah.
up to 18 months from
Sure.
start until you've got your
Yeah.
person on the
Yeah.
ground.
Yeah.
And that's not because we're not good at what we do. I think we're
Yeah.
decent at what we do.
Right.
It takes longer to find candidates. There are
Right.
so many more churches right now that are looking than what there are, really good candidates out there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the housing market. It's a candidates market.
That's
We
right.
talk to candidates all the time that are, have two offers on the table and they're talking to us about a
Right.
third.
Right.
That never happened five,
Right.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's just a different environment. You got to step into it. You can be mad at it all you want to. It
Right.
doesn't do you any good, but it's just the reality, and you've got to be patient and trust God that He's going to bring you the person you need.
Well, another thing is you can Google, are there enough uh, plumbers, electricians, truck drivers, teachers, nurses, and
Mhm.
you can get into all of these subset worlds, right? These little, and
Yep.
it's like they've got the same issue that you and I are talking about, and it's sometimes even more complex and more like how many plumbers are retiring right now and how many are being
Oh,
trained.
yeah.
It's
And
way off.
and
It is
and
way
it's
off.
it is a perfect storm as well, just financially. If
Yeah.
you go to replace a staff member, the
Yeah.
sticker shock is
Yeah.
incredible just because of the economy and inflation and everything. It's much more expensive too. So it's a new reality out there for every church.
Okay, people listening, chemistrystaffing.com. Is that right?
Yep, that is correct.
Chemistrystaffing.com. There's probably a big button there. They're going to click and talk to somebody or talk to you.
Yep,
The
absolutely.
second,
Yep.
the second thing is hold that red book up with the long title.
This one?
No, thank you for that.
Oh,
Man, you
yeah.
keep doing this. Did I say $20 every time you
I,
held it?
I
Man,
get $20 every time
I'm up
I
to
see
80.
there's
Put
another
that book
20. There's
down.
another
Put the
20.
book
There's
down.
another 20.
The
Yeah.
red book,
No.
The Silent
Yeah.
Alarm. I think every preacher in America should buy copies for their elder board. And if you're
That'd be
not
awesome.
looking today, you should then definitely read it, actually.
That's probably it's probably a better time to read a book like this and your
That
book
is
as
right.
well when you're not looking
That is
because that
right.
kind of gets you seasoned up for it. You go to chemistrystaffing.com/silent alarm.
Silent Alarm. Okay. Are you working on anything that we should all invest in? Because it appears as though you've done pretty well on the early idea stuff.
I got a new book coming out. It's not a this is oh this is the not the this is what I find this really interesting.
You
I
have
got on a writing
another
spree
book?
this year. I got on a writing spree this year. I'm really intrigued with this whole topic. It's called When the Church Falls, What We Can Learn from Leadership Collapses and How to Prevent the Next One.
Oh my
I look,
goodness. Hold
are you
on.
writing that book too?
No, I'm not.
Okay, okay.
I have nothing to say
Oh,
about that. Everyone,
no,
all of
what?
my friends asked, "Did you listen to that Mars Hill?" I'm like, I didn't because my cold black heart. I don't need any.
Yeah,
This is
no. So this is not that book.
okay.
This is not that book. This is a book that what I did is I looked at a bunch of those over
Okay.
the past 20, 25 years. Matter of fact, I just came across the speaker list that we did for the nines in
Yes.
2009 and just looked through, and it's like, oh my goodness, there are some tragic stories
How about
in
that?
that speaker
Of
list.
course.
So the whole premise of the book is that we think that when somebody falls, whether it's a large church pastor or a small
Yeah.
church pastor, that it just happens overnight. That all of
Right.
a sudden it hits the headlines.
Yep.
No, there are some telltale signs that happen probably, if not months, years
Right.
ahead of time.
Right.
So it's very much a grace filled book. It's not a tell-all by any means.
Okay.
It's a how can you recognize maybe when something starts to slip so that you don't go down this road,
Very
that
cool.
type of thing. So I
I
don't know
love it.
that that's
When is that
innovative or
coming?
anything, but it's a little bit different take on
When is
that
that
whole
coming out,
topic.
Todd? When is
It's actually at Amazon now, but I've just,
I'm not
I
talking
am
about?
just I'm not a ruthless self-promoter. So
Well,
yeah.
you shouldn't be a ruthless self promoter. You should pay someone to ruthlessly self
That's
promote.
true. I lived in the days when all of my friends wrote a book and I'd get an email from them and it's like, I've got 4 pallets of my book in my garage that I
Right.
got. My wife says they got to be out of here by Friday or else
Yes.
I'm in the dog. It's like, no, I don't want to be that person.
We've lived a similar arc, man. I'm just a couple years behind you, but it is interesting. Worship leader turned staffing person, heart for the church. You want them to win. That's what I get from you. And it's interesting. The guy buying his first computer and running the candy store out of his dorm room. I see a through line of all of that. Like you weren't the mad inventor. I don't mean to make it sound like that, but you
Yeah,
you had
yeah.
the ideas early, and it's a gift to the kingdom, the wake and the influence of all of that.
Oh, good.
So,
I'm thrilled to be whatever part God will allow me to play. It's awesome.
and super humble.
And you get paid for it too. That's what I always thought.
Sometimes
It's
I'm
like,
I'm
yeah,
told that that
sometimes
can happen
that's true.
someday,
That's true. I've always told people if you can find something that God's called you to that you're passionate about and you get a paycheck from
and
it,
you get a paycheck.
that's that's like awesome.
If you can find that, you'll still find a reason to complain
Yeah,
because
well,
I know that's my
that is
story.
true. That is true. Yeah,
Todd Rhodes, this has been
we do
fun,
live
man.
parallel lives.
This has been fun. And Todd Rhodes, chemistrystaffing.com, Silent Alarm. Grab that book, everybody. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so
Thanks for your
much,
time.
Dave.